Redis for task management, Celery for background jobs, Postgres SQL as a database, and Elasticsearch for search functionality. By the end of this video, you will have a fully Dockerized Django app. So let's get started and we can done it successfully. First, I will just clone my GitHub repo. If you want to, first of all, test with my GitHub repo, and you can utilize it, you can clone it. If you will be using your own project, I will also explain you. So first of all, I will just open my Visual Studio Code, and I have cloned this repo locally. So if you have your own project, then you will make some changes. If you're just using this GitHub repo, mine repo, then you don't need to change anything. I will explain you what is inside the structure. So first of all, what do you have to do? If you are just going to utilize this configurations in your project, you have to first copy this folder, which is a build process folder. And then you have to also copy this app content folder. Just make sure you have these folders like media root, static root, templates. But inside these folders, you can empty these folders, which is fine. Or you can just copy whole folder from my project and the build process. Then you have to copy two files as well. If I go into the backends folder, you have to copy this. Make sure you have this ASGI file available in your project, and you can make sure you have these kind of settings in your project. This is a backend folder name, so it will be according to your project structure if you're using your own GitHub repo. And then you have a Celery config file, okay, because we have some initial basic setup for the Celery, so your project will stop Celery task and all these things. So you can also copy this file. Just make sure you update this path here as per your project name, where your settings.py file is. So you have to copy ACI celery.config. So when you are done, then you have to make sure a few things in your settings.py file. If I go into the settings.py file, you have to make sure, if I just show you, the Celery package is here, okay, and static files and white noise package, channels, these are available in your installed apps. And then you have to go, you make sure this line is also available. And next, what do you have to do? Make sure, because we are going to use Postgres SQL, and your database configuration should be something like that. So we will be going to read all these configurations for env file. So make sure you have this kind of setup in your project. And then you make sure static root, because we will be reading static root location from env, and this should be also good to go, and the channel layers, and this should be also defined in your project settings file. And then these lines, make sure these are also available in your project, and the Elasticsearch code as well. And you can also copy these lines from my code cache. Okay, so then you will have a basic setup of your Django project which supports all these configurations, and you are good to go. Then one more thing, which is this file init.py. Just make sure you have imported the Celery configuration here, and this is done. So we are done with this. One more thing, which is a requirements.txt file. Just make sure all these packages that I'm using, because some are Celery based, some are Postgres SQL, some are supportive for Elasticsearch, and especially Jonicon, and these packages must be in your requirement.txt file. This is the basic structure. These changes you have to make in your project, so you can make sure your project can easily run locally first. So when you are done with this, and then we have to do, I'm just going to run the project locally, okay. For this, I have to run a command, which is, I will also add this in the readme, so you can just copy this command from readme as well. So what I'm going to do, this is the command, which is a docker compose command I will be going to run to start this project. Okay, and we are then good to go. But one more thing, before you start running this command, make sure you have a Docker desktop application running on your system. How you can download? You can just go to the official website of Docker. You can download Docker desktop, and the Docker desktop application is up and running, okay, and installed. So I will be also going to open my Docker application first. And I will make sure to zoom it. Okay, so now I have to go to my terminal. I will be just going to execute this command, because this command is docker compose command. It will go to the build process folder, and it will execute this compose file, which is available in this file in this folder. So we have to just initially run this, and we will go in detail what is available in this file, and we can understand better. So just hit enter. So you will see our project is building, and it is created and started. For the first time it can take 1 to 2 minutes, and then you will open into the Docker desktop. You will see this build process, and if I show you here first, you can see all these applications are running. This is for Postgres, this is for Celery, this is for Elasticsearch, and this is for the Redis. All the containers are running. Okay, if I zoom out, so you can see all the containers are running and successfully started. So because of this blue color, green color, you can just see. And if I go into my Django production, okay, and I can see my application is running successfully. This is how you can determine your application is started successfully. In case if your configurations are okay, you can just stop, and you can just restart it, so everything will be okay. When you are done with this, then what you have to do, we have to understand one thing. We have to understand what is in this Docker compose file. So first of all, we have a version of the Docker compose, which is not much important to understand this, and then we have a services. In the services, we are going to discuss all these services one by one. We have a Redis service, and in the Redis service we have a Docker base image, which is official image available on Docker Hub. So I'm using the latest Redis image, and the container name I'm giving a Redis, and the ports, which is 6379, which is a port we use for Redis. And the network, I have defined the network because I have a different services. I want to make a bridge between all these services so they can communicate with each other. So I'm just given the network name Elastic, but you can give any name to your network. And then restart always, to make sure if any failure or something happens, so your container should be automatically restarted. And then we are coming to the Elasticsearch service, which is we are using a base image, which is official image, and I have given the Docker container name, and then we have a volume here defined for our Elasticsearch, and the environment, which is like basic settings to make sure it does not use more space and memory, and the port, which is 920 we use for the Elasticsearch, and the network. And then we have a Postgres service, which is the database that I'm using a database inside the Docker compose, so it will set up and prepare my database, so I can easily integrate and use this with my Django. These are the username, password, and database name. You can just replace these database password name if you want. When you replace this, just make sure you have the env file where you can also replace it. So make sure if you're changing the username and the password, okay, so make sure just replace these three things in env as well. And this is the port and the volume for our database and the network. And then we have a backend. In the backend, we are using Linux, a base platform where our application, our container will be based on and running. So yeah, the Docker file that I'm using, I have the Docker file inside this folder. You can see this Docker file I am using. We will also learn that yeah, in the Docker file you can see this line is very important, backend.settings. So this is my project where my settings.py file is. So you can just make sure if you're using your own project, you have to update it. And I'm using Python 3.12 Slim's images are more better to reduce the size of your Docker image, and some basic configurations that I need to run. And then I'm going to copy the requirement.txt file and I want to install the packages. Then I have to create a work directory and packages installation. Then I'm exposing my port on 8080, which is also good to go. And then we have to create logs. These lines are not required, so I will just remove. And then we have to copy everything from this folder to this home, okay, inside the Docker. And then this will be the command. We will be running 4 workers of JohnnyCon to run our application on port 8080. And this is a backend folder name where my WSHI file available, and we are good to understand. And this file also does not make sense. We can delete it, and we can also delete this folder. Okay, so and here we go, we can see the app environment that which is I'm using production, which is also defined here in the env file as well. If I go in the settings.py file, and at the top I will show you I have defined. For this project I have not defined, but if you have something you are managing for your bigger project, you have to check if it's running locally or production. So you can define env in the env what is the environment I'm running. So for now it is just you have to keep it as it is. And then this is a volume and the port 8080 env file, which is good that I'm using this env file. This is the name of the env file, and that depends on, like, before we start this container, make sure the Postgres, Redis, Elasticsearch containers are running and ready. And then we have a Celery, and the Celery that we are using the same image that we have used here in the backend. So we don't want to create a new image. And then it's using build process Docker file, which Docker file to use. Then we have app environment production, that's fine. Okay, and the port on with the Celery run 5555 and the env file. So it depends upon the backend service and the Redis. These services should be up and running, then this container should start. Okay, and then we have volumes. Okay, so this is a volume name that will store the data of our application, and this is a bridge, like this is our network name, which is will be bridge between all these containers. So this is a basic configuration for all the services that we are going to use. So in just one command, everything will be ready and running. We don't need to configure anything else. So we are now ready and good to go with our project setup. Our project is running locally correctly and fine. So you ask me in the comment section if you have any doubt, any problem. I will be answering all the queries. And anything else you want to ask me, you can send me a connection request on LinkedIn as well. I will be happy to reply you. And stay tuned for more videos. You can watch more videos on my YouTube channel if you want to apply React, any other tech frameworks. You can watch the videos, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.